Hello,
Yay!
here we are.
How's everybody doing?
Amazing.
Great.
Yay! Oh, we got participation from Zoom land. I so appreciate that. Okay. I hate quiet. Does anybody?
We can make some noise.
Okay, that's good. Are we allowed to sign today? Ah! Thank you.
Your
I want-
camera's off. We can't see you guys.
Oh, I didn't even realize. Hey, you see it? Where's it?
Yes.
Yay! See, now you know how I feel.
You're right. You're right.
Yes. Well, I know we're at that time of the year where we have it's summer vacations, graduations, protests. No. Like joke really. Then things happens. You know, people get preoccupied as we get into. Oh, we're in June already, right? End of May, June-ish. And then we start kind of picking up a little bit, and then we kind of have a little right before school. So on and so forth. So I appreciate y'all here. Thank you. It's January 10th, 2025. We are almost done with the first half. It's smooth.
Yeah.
It will be. I mean, as soon as the day hits, there's over. Happy New Year, 2026, here we come. Right, so right now we do know that, you know, this is a perfect opportunity for you to reflect, right, on what happened the first year of 2025, right? Am I on track? Is there a gap? Do I have to catch up? Whatever the case may be, because you don't want to wait till, because right now we're already working on third quarter business. Right, so we're working on third quarter business right now, and you don't want to get to the end of third quarter and be like, oh, I got to work on fourth quarter business and do like 20 deals to close out, right? No, we always want to be reflecting on where we're at so we can make whatever adjustments are needed. Fair enough?
Yep.
Thanks. Who said that? Jay? Alan? Oh, me.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know we always talk about growth is outside your comfort zone, right? So let's see, Jojo. You want to read our motivational moment for today?
Sure.
Please.
It's not about getting out of your comfort zone to reach your goal. It's about getting used to your discomfort. What does that mean to me?
Yep.
So you'll never get ahead without any kind of failures. Failures will bring you up and keep going.
Yep.
Learning from it.
Yep, absolutely. And is there anyone in here that do you feel in life, let's say in life in general, or in your business, that you are kind of staying status quo, that you're playing a little safe? Do y'all feel that, or do you feel, anybody feel that? Okay. Thanks.
Feel that what? Feel what?
That you're playing it safe.
Yeah.
Right? You're just like, okay, you know what, that might be a little uncomfortable conversation, or maybe stepping out, you know, what will people think of me, or what will I look like, blah, 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 blah. Right? So, Roger needs to get his butt in here. He's right there. Okay. So, Roger, get over here. Okay, so it's all about being out of your comfort zone, right? So each time that you start getting out of your comfort zone, playing in this area, right? Then eventually it becomes your new comfort zone, right? And then you step out of it a little bit, because that's where growth is always happening. So again, it's not about getting out of your comfort zone to reach your goal. It's about getting used to your discomfort. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Fair enough? Right, Jay? Okay. We have a lot of guest speaker, well, not a lot of guest speaker. We have a couple speakers, but our main one is Jay. I'm going to introduce him in a second. I really want you all, because is there a lot of shidizzle happening in the world right now?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, I would be saying shit all the time.
You go, girl.
So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So it's so important, you know, because LA, it seems like we have one thing after another. We had real fires in, January. Now we have other fires in June, so on and so forth. So is all that stuff that's happening completely out of our control? Yes, please say yes. Okay, so we can't control what people are doing, whether this is not a political conversation at all. I'm just saying we can't control whatever's happening, but we can control our actions. We can control what we're thinking about. We can control how we act. We can control how we're influencing. We can control ourselves. That is it. And we have to be careful because it's easy to do, particularly right now. We're like, oh my God, what's going on? Blah, 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 to get consumed with the things, right? So don't you think it would probably be in your best interest to stay focused on yourself and your business and the things that you want to accomplish versus things that are completely outside of your control? Would you agree? Yeah, so really take this time too as we're reflecting, okay, how do I want my next 6 months to look? Because June is basically gone, right? Even though it's the 10th, it's still, it's going to be July 1st before we know it. So really go back and view your goals. Like, hey, is that what I put down as my goal? Or if you guys haven't even thought about your goals, you may just wing it from, day to day, but decide exactly what you want. Get super clear on it. Then turn your vision into specific and measurable goals. Then you break it down, supercharge your goals with affirmations and visualizations. Put your vision board, put your goals, put your pictures of it, everything inside your phone. So in the morning you can flip through it. Well, you heard me talk about this morning, right? You can flip through it. It's right there. But all the stuff, all the messaging that's, all the stimulation that's coming to us minute by minute, you get to control what you're putting inside your mind and in your body, right? We have very healthy food today, so just put lots of that. But you get to control this. So wouldn't it be better to put all this kind of stuff into your head consistently, right? So you can be going on the path, create an action plan, and then you take action to create it, right? Because action is the only truth, correct? Say yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then solicit and respond to feedback, right? What is the feedback? What course corrections do I need to take on my path? Do I need to switch things up? Maybe that's not important to me, so on and so forth. And practice perseverance. Has anybody ever thought about giving up?
Never.
It is me.
Good. Very good. But perseverance is important. It's just like, there's sometimes when, is there sometimes I'm like, do I really want to go to the office today? Right. I never say think that. Anyway, but I do, right? If I'm having a shitty day or something like that, I'm like, so it's my responsibility to turn that around. Yeah, then I play the victim. It's your fault. Yeah, so it's just perseverance. Remember how if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. We have, do a checkup from the neck up going, oh, okay, let me shift this around, so on and so forth. Would be, just keep moving forward one step in front of the other, right? And then practice gratitude. I mean, that's just the best way to start every day and end every day. It's just being thankful that we have another day above ground, right? It's like, oh, yay, I woke up, right? So these are just certain things to remember how to come back to you, because all the stuff, there's always going to be shizzle in the world. There's always going to be stuff. So whatever you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on the crap, you're going to get more of that. If you're focusing on the beauty of everything, you're going to get more of that. So let's just keep focusing on you and what's important to you, and be that servant leader that I know you all are. Sound like a plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you guys happy you woke up today?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, so 3 more people that have joined our beautiful family. Shanique, Ewan, thank you, and Adam. Woohoo! Welcome, Adam. Super excited to have you here, all of you. So thank you so much. Okay, I don't think that Chris, did you come on? I don't think so. Cause he told me he probably wouldn't be able to make it, so on and so forth, but I've asked him, we are gonna get his, how many of you attended his trainings last week? Fabulous. So he did record them. I'm just waiting for us to receive them. So then we can, send them out to the office. Fair enough? And are you all paying attention to the changes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome, okay. JP! It's your turn.
All right.
So what, I'm so happy and excited that Jay is here. He's with Peet 1031 Exchange. You're just an amazing guy and just super duper smart. So listen to everything that he has to say.
All right.
Thank you.
I like the endorsement. I'm gonna take you with me wherever I go.
Okay.
How many of you know what a 1031 exchange is? How many of you completed a 1031 exchange? Okay, a couple of you. A 1031 exchange is probably one of the last great tax items that we've got when it comes to real property. So that's what I'll be talking about today. So a little bit about my background. I got certified as a 1031 exchange specialist in 2006. I done about $2 billion in 1031 exchanges. I did that for about a decade. I realized that I wanted to have a bigger impact on the community that I was in. So I invested in a Keller Williams franchise. I became the team leader and I ran that company for 10 years. I just recently retired from that role and went back into the 1031 exchange business because I found that where I thought I was having a big impact on the agents, I can actually have a deeper impact on end consumers and in turn make the agents look like a superstar. And so I've really kind of gone back to my roots and I really, really enjoy it. It's one tax code, but it's this thick. And there isn't anything about the exchange that I don't know, which gives you an advantage to lend to your clients and save them thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and CPA consultation, because I can give them what they need on your behalf for absolutely nothing. Right. So what I wanted to do today is talk about the fundamentals of the exchange, how exchange works, and then kind of the trends that we're seeing in today's 1031 exchange world. Does that sound like something we could all do? All right. So I brought these handouts to break it down because how many of you have been involved in a real estate transaction where there was a loan? Everybody should be raising their hand, right? And so you all know what an LTV is, right? Loan to value. If you take that same acronym, the LTV, and you just apply one more V, the LTVs of the 1031 exchange are the 4 fundamental and statutory requirements, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So you've got kind of a reference manual of 1-pager on what those LTVs are, but I'm going to go into detail about each one of them. And the first one is L, like what L stands for is like kind. So what the IRS says, if you have a property that you've held for use in trade or business, or primarily for investment purposes, and you intend to sell that property and use the proceeds to buy a like-kind replacement property, no taxes will be due if you're using the services of a qualified intermediary. And so the first question that I always get from taxpayers is, all right, define like-kind. Does that mean if I'm selling a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, I have to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house? And the answer to that question is not necessarily. The IRS doesn't really care the quality of the asset. Because we can all agree that a raw piece of land has less value, it's a lower quality than a piece of land that has $1 million home on it, correct? Right? So, but in an instance where you've got a large piece of vacant land that is nothing more than a liability to the property owner because he's paying taxes, it doesn't have any income, he can sell that property and exchange that into an apartment complex. What the IRS looks at is your intended use. What are you doing with the property? Vacant land, there's no one living on it. You can't call that your primary residence, right? So it's held for investment purposes. A multi-unit apartment complex, probably not your primary residence, held for investment purposes. So they really look at what the intended use is. And the properties that you can exchange in and out of are very, very broad. It's oftentimes easier to talk about what doesn't qualify. So what doesn't qualify? Your primary residence, for most parts, right? If you're using it personally, it doesn't qualify as one held for investment purposes. So that kind of comes off the table. And then inventory. So if you're buying homes and fixing them up and flipping them for a profit, that's not going to qualify. If you're a developer, if you're building homes and selling them for profit, that's the nature and character of your business. And those 2 situations a 1031 exchange isn't available to you. Now, you guys kind of live in a microclimate community where you can actually have two uses. And especially with today's new, additional dwelling units and demand for housing, a lot of primary resident properties are turning into investment properties. Because you've got your primary residence and then you put an ADU in the back and you rent that out. And so there is an opportunity in a situation like that, or let's say somebody's got a small orange grove, or they've got a horse property, or they've got a business on their property. The IRS uses the term bifurcation, where you have two uses. So what's really cool about this, if you identify it, is that your client can sell a property and take a portion of the gain as their primary residence exemption. And then if there was a business portion of the property, do a 1031 exchange on the remainder portion. It's a great way to help your client, or help you get a listing when the client says, listen, hey, I'd sell my property, but married, I've only got $500,000 in gain that I can take out, and I've got $2 million in gain here. I'm not going to sell. I'm not going to list the property. I'll die in this house. That's when you can step in and say, there might be an opportunity for you to not only take that $500,000 in gain, but sell the property, take that gain, and then take the remainder portion and put it into another investment that's going to provide cash flow for you. Right? Does that sound attractive? And what's really great about that from the shoes that you're wearing is that you not only get a listing, but you get a purchase, but you get a couple of purchases. And otherwise you might not have gotten a listing at all. So the like kind rule is very, very broad. Just keep that in mind. And it all boils down to the intended use. What are you doing with the property? Does that make any questions on the L there, the like kind? I'm going to go through these one at a time and answer questions as we go so that they're fresh in your mind if you have. Yes.
So I just got your, I already have a question. So I understand you're saying that half of the house, like let's say the ADU would be 1031 exchange, but is that written any differently? That's just only for tax purposes, right? I mean, that person needs to we can explain it as much as we can, but their tax person needs to do that. I mean, that's something we do in our paperwork.
Sure. So it's a great question. And so we are not tax advisors, or we do not give legal counsel, right? That's evident from your broker's marching orders, right? We don't do those things. But if you don't acknowledge the fact that this is an opportunity, there's a case in Texas right now where a taxpayer is suing the realtor because the realtor didn't inform him he could have done a 1031 exchange. Subsequently, he lost out on thousands of dollars that he could have put back into the property through tax deference. And so it's important to know what can and can't be exchanged. You don't have to give the guidance. You just have to open the door. Did you know, Mr. Seller, if you've got part of your property that's an investment, you might be able to do a 1031 exchange on that portion. You should talk to your CPA and or legal counsel. Or let me give you this guy, because I can talk to him. I can tell him about, we can do that. And what's really interesting about that bifurcation rule is that you do not have to have the property surveyed or appraised. What it really falls down on is your tax filing, your historical tax filing. So if let's say I live in a property and, let's say I've got a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house that I own, and I've got an ADU in the back. And my kids are grown and gone, right? I've lived in this property forever. But I move out of the 4-bedroom, 3-bath house and I move into the ADU because I don't need it. And I rent the main property out. I do that for a year. My tax filing is going to support that when I sell, 75% of that property is held for investment purposes, and 25% was my primary residence. And I'm not married, so I only get to put $250,000 in my pocket tax-free. Guess what? 25% actually equals $250,000 in gain. So I end up maximizing my investment and being able to exchange it into a property. But it all falls back on that historical. In an audit, if the IRS audits your clients, one of the things they're going to do is they're going to listen, who's your accommodator who handles your 1031 exchange? They'll see that it's Peet or a reputable company, and they'll usually just table it and move on to the next thing. They're not going to get audited for the exchange, but if it does get pulled in, they're going to want to look at the historical filings for that investment to make sure it qualifies for.
Is that the time frame 1 year?
There isn't a defined time. The IRS has put a defined time on a couple of different things, which we'll talk about when we get to the time frames. But it is not. It all depends on the intended use, and they leave it broad and vague like that, so that it opens the door for a variety of options, so that you're not pigeonholed into one specific thing. So that's like time. And then, so let's talk about the T, the time frame, which is the next, thanks for the lead in there, the time frames. You have, when you close escrow, a clock that starts ticking. And that clock has 2 windows. The first one is 45 days. Your client has 45 days to identify what it is they want to purchase to complete their 1031 exchange. That identification has to be in writing. It has to be delivered to a qualified intermediary or a qualified person on or before midnight on the 45th day. And the IRS does not care if the 45th day lands on Christmas, Sunday. If it's not in, you're screwed. The exchange is blown. So it has to be identified. And that's usually the first hurdle, right, for your client. And we'll talk about some objection handlers in a second. So we've got day your escrow closes, next day is day 1, 45 days to identify, 180 days in total to close. So you roughly got 6 months to get the deal done. Now, let's talk, which most people don't have a problem. Like, I think if I sell today, I can close in 6 months. I can do that. Where you're gonna find the objection is in that 45-day window. Holy crap, I can't decide what car to buy in 45 days, let alone an investment property. I don't think I'm gonna list. I think we're just gonna keep this investment. That's what can happen. Now, a great objection to that is Mr. Mrs. Seller. You know, this is what I do all day, every day. And I guarantee you, once you sign the listing tonight, I will immediately start looking for your replacement property. It takes about 45 days for a property, once it's listed, let's 30 days, whatever the market is down here. 30 days, okay, call it 30 days, 30 days to get into escrow. Right? So I've got 30 days before your clock starts ticking, and I'm gonna start looking for suitable replacement property. Once we get into escrow, you know, we've got a 45-day escrow, and maybe it's a 50-day escrow, whatever the escrow time is. We've got that additional time through escrow, and then the clock starts ticking, and you have 45 days. So if we've got 30 days, another 45 days, that's over 3 months. Do you think we can find a suitable replacement property in 3 months? I think so too. So let's sign the listing agreement tonight. I'll get your property on the market. We're gonna get you top dollar with the least amount of headaches in the quickest amount of time and get you into the investment you really want to get into. And I would suggest starting with the motivation. Like, why are you selling this investment property? It's cash flow, and why sell? A lot of times you'll find the real reason that you get to loop back to. Well, I'm selling this because I want to buy an investment property in Arizona because that's where my grandkids are. And I eventually want to turn that into my second home or my primary residence so I can be next to the grandkids. So when they say something like that, you know you've got them. You've tethered into an emotional connection. So when they say, maybe we won't list, we'll just deal with this. Well, let me tell you, we'll get the property sold the least amount of time and for the most amount of money with the least amount of headaches so that you can get next to those grandkids and you won't miss another soccer game or a birthday. Doesn't that sound great? Like, those are the emotional ties that get the listing. Yeah, first question.
Yeah, when you say the 45 days to identify, does that mean you have to open escrow on the 45th or 46th day?
No, escrow doesn't have to be open. I suggest waiting until like the 40th day, even if you're in escrow, because it might fall out. Because after the 45th day, if it hasn't been identified, it doesn't qualify. But you don't have to be in escrow. It doesn't have to, I mean, you can identify the Empire State Building. It has to be identified. It has to be in writing. And Empire State Building is an example. But
and then if for some reason the first building is not cannot be purchased, is there a substitute?
Yeah, so there's two.
Identified on the 45th day, 40th day, and then that doesn't work out. I can go to Plan B for a different building.
So the IRS gives you two options for identifying property. There's actually three, but the third one's irrelevant. The first one is that you can identify up to 3 properties. So this is the property I want. I'm actually in escrow with this one, but I could purchase this one and I might purchase that one. So you can identify all 3 with the requirement of only purchasing to the net sales price, which we're going to talk about next in values. If you're diversifying, so you've got the 3 property rule. That's important to know. Most people, if they're selling a property and buying a single replacement property, they'll use the 3 property rule. Right, because that would give them some options. They'll identify the one that they're in escrow with or the one they really want, maybe a backup, and then they might use something like a Delaware statutory trust. A DST is basically a securitized interest in real property where they can buy and they know it's there and available so their exchange won't get blown. And those are more of like a coupon clipper. You basically buy into a company that owns an assisted living facility or student housing and you get a fractional interest and then you get a pro rata share of income on that money. We're seeing more and more exchanges go into those products because people are sick of managing, especially in California, where you've got all of these rent control issues. People are dumping their multifamily, dumping their single family residence that they have rented out and going into these DSTs because it's 0 headaches and it's positively cash flowing for them every month. And they get the appreciation and there's all kinds of options. You get to pick the type of asset you want, commercial, residential, multifamily. It's really kind of a cool product. And I don't sell those, but I've got access to those. I've got access to the largest retail sales guy in that space who lives down here. So if you guys have any interest in that or want me to bring Sam in to talk, I can bring him in too. So that's the 3 property rule. There's a 200% rule, which applies to those that are looking to maybe diversify. Let's say you've sold a $10 million building and you want to buy 10 $1 million buildings. Well, if you want to buy 10, you're going to need to identify more than 3. So the IRS says you're going to identify 200% of what you sold. So if you sold for $10 million, you could identify $20 million worth of real estate. So that'd be 20 properties at $1 million. You only need to close on the 10 million that you sold. Now, we have one more question back there.
And that's kind of where we're talking about, but also that when you have we have 3 identified, if one sells, for example, somebody else, you can re-identify another property in its place.
Yeah, you do have to go through a process where you have to submit a letter of rescission, pulling that property out of the identification pool and putting a new one in. And you could literally close escrow on day 1 of your exchange. So the 45 days is just for that delayed person who doesn't know what they want to buy. And I usually guide my clients to not put an ID letter in until day 40. Gives us a 5-day window in there, but they'll know for certain, like with a higher level of certainty, what they're going to be buying if they haven't already closed escrow.
Can you switch from one to the other, from the three items to the 200%?
You can, yep, again with that rescission, but it usually wouldn't happen unless you've got a large asset. If you've got a large asset that's sold and you found the perfect replacement that's a large asset and that's falling out, you can easily switch by rescinding that and going into using the 200% rule. Then you can do all of that within the 45 days. After the 45-day cutoff, though, according to the IRS, there's nothing more you can do.
Can get an extension.
There is only one situation in when you get extensions, and that is if you're an affected party member to a presidentially declared disaster area, which everybody that was involved in the fires down here is an affected party member. So there's a lot of extensions, and the extension goes for another 180 days. So people that are affected by the fire don't have to live there. Maybe their asset was there, or maybe their investment was out here, but they lived in a fire zone. They're still an affected party member. They would get the extension.
One more question.
Yeah.
Let's say the 200%. Okay, so sell $10 million and you have 20 comes up and 12 of them sell. And you still but you still have 8, so you have $8 million still identified.
Okay.
45 days comes through. So those 8 can still be used, but then you have to pay the taxes probably on the other $2 million that you have not.
Correct. What's great about the 1031 exchange, it's not an all or nothing. If you sell, you sell a property for $1 million and you find that your client finds a perfect replacement for $880,000, they can still complete the exchange. They'll just pay tax on that 20 grand. So that kind of leads us into the first B, which is value. And what the IRS requires you to purchase to defer 100% of your gain is the net sales price. Hear that again, the net sales price. That's imperative. A lot of your clients will say, okay, I'm selling a house for $1 million. I've got a $300,000 loan I'm paying off. I'm walking out away with $700,000. Let's go find that perfect property for me for 700 grand. I want to use all my cash. If they touch the cash, they're taxed on it. If they buy below the net sales price, they're taxed on what the IRS calls debt relief. So they have to purchase to that net sales price. Otherwise, why wouldn't they just refinance all the cash out, right? And then pay tax on the $100,000 left over. So the IRS has closed that gap. So the net sales price is the magic number. And again, it's not an all or nothing. One of the trends that we're seeing in today's marketplace is a lot of seller carries. Because, you've got a taxpayer who purchased a property, great price 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but they refinanced and they got an interest rate of 2.875%. And so they're selling the property, carrying a note for 6%. Once they convert their grant deed interest into a trust deed, which is just a piece of paper, you no longer have real property. They've now removed their ability to do a 1031 exchange on that portion of the sale. Does that make sense? Because you're selling a grant deed interest in real property. I own real property and I'm relinquishing that real property. The cash is coming to the accommodator and then I'm buying real property. When you say, listen, I'll carry paper. When you take, let's say the property is $1 million and they come up with $700,000 down and you carry 300 grand. You've now converted your real property interest into a trust deed, a piece of paper. saying that I don't own that real estate. I own a note against it. You own the real estate. I can foreclose on you, but I just have a piece of paper. That 300,000 will never be allowed to, you cannot exchange notes, deeds of trust, can't do it. They can still exchange the 700,000 that they got in the way of sale proceeds when the deed transferred ownership, but a note and deed of trust will never qualify for a 1031 exchange.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the same topic, the value, I just do a clarify in my head. I got $1 million property that, the owner owns 300 on it.
Okay.
Selling cost of 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the transfer will be the 650.
Correct. So the net sales price is the sales price, $1 million, less the expenses. And let's talk about those expenses. There's escrow, title fees, document transfer tax, real estate commissions. And so if you, let's say that number is 10%, for example, you got $1 million sale, the net sales price on that property is going to be 900,000.
But now you don't count the mortgage.
Do not count the mortgage. The mortgage is part of the net sales price.
On the net sale. Got it.
So just the hard costs that come off the top.
If somebody had. Somebody sold their property, wanted to carry paper, but it's not cash.
They can be the bank, you bet. So what happens is they create a note and deed of trust to become the bank. They lend money to the buyer outside of escrow or a separate escrow. And so when escrow closes, 100% of the proceeds come over. So they can do that. And I've actually, this is just to know that, just know this, if you guys have a client that has cash, that wants to do an exchange and needs to be creative, call me. I did an exchange with a group up in San Luis Obispo. They were selling multiple properties and they were not closing at the same time. And so they did a note, but they named us, the accommodator, as the beneficiary of the note. So they got, it was a $10 million asset and they had, or $10 million exchange. They were buying a $10 million property. They were selling a bunch of properties to equal $10 million. And the note was taken back for $450, I think 4.5 million. So we had 5.6 million or 5.5 million in the exchange account. We were also the benefactor on the note and deed of trust. And so when each property sold, they brought cash into the exchange and we carved out that portion of the note. And so they got to pay that off as it went, and they just chewed away at it for the 180 days because they'd already identified their replacement property until all the cash was in the exchange account. And then we went forward and completed the exchange. So I'm using this as a crazy, wild, real world example of what can be done if you've got the right person on your team. That was a great question. Great question. Yeah.
That's a good question. So let's say I sell it for $1 million, but it doesn't always count that it's $1 million. It could be, it's not necessarily what it sells for. It's what it's valuated, correct? Sometimes like, for example, you did a transfer with somebody like a friend and they gave you a big deal, let's say it was worth $1 million, but they sold you for $500,000.
The sales price, the net sales price, valuation is relevant. The IRS does not require the property appraised. You don't have to have surveys done, none of that stuff. It's all about the transfer value. What is the property being sold for? That's the exchange amount. So that sales price less the costs. And again, those hard costs, title, title insurance, document transfer fee, any agreed upon inspection, those can also come off the top. But they're just looking at the sales price. The IRS doesn't have agents out there going and appraising or evaluating property. They're not going to know anything like that. And they're not going to be, it's just irrelevant. There's no governance for it and there's no enforcement.
Okay. Dealer commissions are part of the selling cost. Right?
Correct.
What about if they did remodeling and spent money during this time that they had the
So
property?
that is a great question for their CPA. So what you're talking about, it has nothing to do with the 1031 exchange, but everything to do with their taxable basis. So in that story, so her question was, what if they made a bunch of improvements, right? So let's say they bought the property for $300,000 30 years ago. It's now worth $1 million, right? So their basis is 300,000 and their gain is going to be $700,000. This is an investment property now, not their primary residence. If they sell it and want to cash out, they're going to pay capital gains tax on $700,000. That's this from the purchase price to 300. Now, if they bought for 300,000, but then they put $100,000, they put a new roof on it, did some remodeling, their gain is now only 600,000. So the higher they get to that sales price in non-capitalized improvements, the lower the capital gains is going to be.
If they cash out,
If they cash out, if they do an exchange, they don't pay anything.
what's the point of you?
Yeah, that is the point of the exchange. Yeah, to defer, you know what it is basically, it's you getting, the government's lending you what they would have taken from you in taxes so that you can reinvest that money, and then you're getting appreciation on the government's money. Look at it that way. Yeah, you have a question? Oh, you only get one. I'm just kidding.
One was getting 1031, they did at the very last minute.
Mm-hmm.
So if I am correct, funds have to be, proceeds have to be transferred to the 1031 for it to be.
That is correct. If they close escrow and take possession of the cash, their exchange opportunity is blown.
Okay, so we can find an escrow.
If the ownership has transferred hands and the money is in escrow and the accommodator has not been assigned in prior to the close of escrow, they do not have an exchange. So an exchange must be initiated prior to the close of escrow. So the accommodator actually receives the benefits of the sale. So prior to close, we get assigned in to receive those benefits. And what are the benefits? Cash. We're not going on title. We're not absorbing any liability. We just are in position to receive the cash. And we set up a separate, I can't speak for all companies, but Peet sets up a segregated qualified escrow account in the bank for every single taxpayer. You cannot get more secure than that. Because there's no regulation in this industry. I mean, I opened an exchange company last year with a $50,000 bond and an attorney on staff. I can take that money and do whatever the hell I want with it.
Are you not licensed?
You have a bond, and that's it. In the state of California, and some states are a little more rigid on what's required. Now, Peet, I went to work for Peet because they have got the resources in place, and every single deposit is a qualified escrow account, which gives your client the ability to keep that money in the bank. It is not speculated. They're not using it for anything other than keeping it in the bank. And it can't come in or go out without your client's signature. So that they provide a level of security, and they've got about $750 million on deposit right now.
And they earn the interest, not as an accommodator.
You cannot borrow, pledge, or otherwise benefit from the exchange funds during the exchange period. That's a requisite by the Department of not by the IRS. Statutory requirement. So that's why the qualified intermediary gets brought into the equation. That said, there's only one thing left to talk about, and that is vesting. Whoever sells the real estate, whoever the taxpayer is, that's the seller, that's who has to be the buyer. Now that sounds pretty simple, right? J. Peet sells a property, J. Peet's gonna buy a property. But what if I had gotten married and I owned this property before I was married, it's in my own name, and we're buying an investment property on the coast, which is 4 times what we're selling for, what I'm selling for. And so she's gonna go, she needs to be on title so that because we both, our income is both required for the lender. Is the lender gonna allow me to purchase in my own name and not put her on the title if I'm using her income to qualify? Jojo, would you allow that to happen?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
The answer is no. The answer is no.
Actually, Jojo would allow.
Jojo, but great, my guy. So,
Allowed.
So, but more common situations, that's actually more common than you would think. But let's say the property is held in the name of a corporation or a multi-member LLC, right? So, Jojo, Stephanie, and I own a property together, you know, the JJS LLC, and we decide we're going to sell because we don't want to do multifamily anymore. But I want to go into assisted living. Stephanie wants to go into multifamily, and Jojo wants to go into commercial. We can't make a decision. We can't go our separate ways. Because the LLC is the tax-paying entity that owns the real estate. So that entity has to buy replacement property. And so there are some solutions with enough notice. We can dissolve the LLC, have an operating agreement, own it as tenants in common. The LLC needs to file its final tax return. Then we own it as tenants in common. We sell. We can all go our separate way. So there's ways around it. One of the exceptions that comes up more frequently is that a family trust owns a piece of real estate. Trust is there for legal protection and to prevent the property from going into probate. It has 0 tax consequence, doesn't pay its own taxes. So if you sell in the name of the LLC, the accommodator is holding onto the funds, and then you need to buy, your client wants to buy a replacement property, they're borrowing money, they talk to Jojo, JoJo's not gonna wanna lend money to a trust. So they need to buy in their own name, close escrow, and then they can put it directly into the trust as soon as escrow closes, and that does not violate the 1031 exchange because the family trust is not a tax paying entity. It's disregarded for tax purposes. Yeah.
Go back just a couple of sentences.
Sure.
I didn't understand what happens if you own property when you're single and you get married and the replacement, does the spouse go
Sure.
on the?
So if I had a property prior to marriage and I got married, and my new wife and I are gonna do it, we're gonna buy property, but I'm selling this one to do an exchange onto it. It's the lender, she can't be entitled to my interest in this piece of real estate because she wasn't entitled to this property. So if I'm the seller, I have to be the buyer. If I'm the seller, we cannot be the buyer.
Should 25% of that property be?
You could do a tenant common ownership. So let's say I sell for 500,000 or buying for 2 million. I could bring in and do a 1031 exchange on 25% of the property, and then we could then own the other 75% as joint tenants or tenants of common
The replacement property is not community property?
not in the state of California, even though it's not considered community property for 1031 exchange purposes because she's not on title.
That's what you want.
It happens more frequently than you would think. It happens a lot of times with mixed, like you've got somebody's divorced and that property's like, my property is, I'm divorced. My properties are all in my family trust. And if I got remarried, there would be, they aren't associated with the marriage at all. They're there for, my kids will inherit the properties.
Before you're married is yours separate. Whatever
Right.
you purchase after your marriage, unless one spouse or the other relinquishes their right to it, is.
Community property.
Okay, so now I have a little more complicated question.
Sure.
Have you dealt with mixed use properties?
Yeah, regularly.
So for example, I have vacant land.
Mm-hmm.
I buy a 50-unit apartment complex on top and retail on the bottom.
Okay.
So, can I occupy one of the 50 units and use 49 units as a 1031 exchange?
So,
and on the commercial side on the bottom, let's say there's 10 offices and I take one of them.
Sure. So exchanging into property that you intend to use for business, trade and business, absolutely allowable. Exchanging into property that you want to use in the future for your business is also allowable. At the time of purchase, your intent must be to hold the entire property for investment purposes. Now, let's say the land is worth, $3 million. The commercial property you're going into is $10 million. There's a big buy up, right? In the vacant land, you can exchange into 95% and just leave that 5% as the one unit that you're going to occupy. So you don't.
That's legal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good deal.
Yeah, and I can help with you probably want to talk to your broker about the verbiage and how that looks in your contract. But it's absolutely allowable.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Those are the fundamentals. You've got the 4 fundamentals of the exchange. And with that, you're armed with the success to be able to talk to your clients about it without going too far. And just know that I'm on your team. Just say, listen, I've got a guy. I can call him. Peet is with Peet 1031 Exchange. He's on my investor team, and he's happy to talk to you about it. Do you mind if I give him your number? And then I'll call him and just have the conversation. And I'll follow up with you with a text and an email, surmising the conversation so that you know exactly what's going on. Yeah.
Going back to the like kind, for the new property that you're looking to purchase, is there rules around where that property resides? Like, does it have to be in the United States of America or?
Yeah, so the IRS is a US entity. So if you take it out of the country, you're getting taxed. But you can go anywhere in the union. I mean, it's a federal regulation, and the state of California allows you to take it outside the state if you want to go. I got a lot of clients moving outside. They're taking all their investments out of California. You do have to file an informational return in the state of California forever, but it's nothing more than a single sheet of paper because they want to claw back any gain that I allowed you to take if you decide to sell in the future. But you can be a foreign national. You can be, from any part of the world owning real estate in California and sell in exchange. You don't have to be a US citizen to exchange. You just can't take the money out of the country. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious about doing 1031s with like related parties, like friends. I'm trying to remember like
a seminar that I went to and they were talking about doing it with each other. But I can't remember why they were doing it exactly.
Doing with the, what kind of conference was this?
Can you
You got the stats going, man. I had to ask. Okay, so the question is, can you exchange with related parties? Okay, first let's define related parties, right? So friends are not related. The IRS defines related parties as linear descents. So children, grandchildren, parents, grandparents, and or your direct siblings. And if you do exchange, so you can exchange with them, but if you do, you have to hold, both of you have to hold onto the property that you exchanged for 2 years. That's the only requirement. What they're trying to prevent is basis shifting. Like where dad, I own property and my basis is super low, right? And my son owns a property, his basis is super high. We exchange properties and now his basis is super high in the property that that we owned as a family. He turns around and sells it and pays very little to no capital gains. They see our family unit as one taxable entity at that point in time.
But if they're just friends.
Friends irrelevant, yeah. No, they're not related to you by blood in that linear or basically it's like a holy trinity, right? You've got the linear descents and then your siblings. I mean, you can exchange with your uncle. They're not on the list. Your favorite uncle, your aunt, your cousins, like totally irrelevant to the IRS, not related parties. Anyone else? On this on the flyer that I sent out is a QR code. Scan that and you can just add me directly to your contacts. I'll be putting your phone as 1031J. So if you have 1031 questions, you just go, who's that 1031? Just go look for 1031 and I'll be there for you. Yeah.
How much fees, like how much does this cost?
$1 million. No, the question is fees. What does it cost to do a 1031 exchange? And the prices vary from company to company. We charge $750 to set it up. That includes getting assigned into the sale property, getting the bank account, the segregated bank account, and escrow account set up. The funds come over and they sit there. If you don't find a replacement property, that is the end of the fee, $750. If you find a replacement property, we've got to sign ourselves in. But majority of the work's done on the front end, so it's $250 for each additional replacement property. So you're looking at like $1,000, $1,100 for a total, and that's a hell of a price to pay. I mean, it's not much to pay for all the gain, the taxes you're not going to be paying. What we're seeing, one more thing I'll talk about quick second, is the other trend. We talked about seller carries as the trend. The other trend I'm seeing in the 1031 exchange world are reverse 1031 exchanges. So what we've been talking about are delayed exchanges. You sell first and then you buy something. What we're finding is people don't want to run the risk of being in that 45-day window. They want to buy something first. Like, this is the property I want, and then I'll sell. Well, the IRS tells us that you cannot exchange on the property that you already own. So what happens is that the accommodator creates a single purpose, single entity LLC. That LLC buys the replacement property, and that starts the clock. So you've got 45 days to identify what you want to sell, and then 180 days in total to close. And once that closes, then the funds can come over. And I'm glad you brought up cost, because the cost for the delayed exchange is $750, you know, maybe $1,100 for replacement property. The reverse exchange is quite a bit more expensive. It's closer to $7,000 because we have to create the entity. We got to go through the state of California. We're named in the chain of title. So if there's ever an environmental issue, we're getting sued. So there's a lot more liability on that side. When we do go on title, we sign an absolute triple net lease with the taxpayer. So they've got the benefit of the property. They can put tenants in it, they can collect rents, they can do all the things they normally would do as the owner. We just are on title as a straw man, if you will, to satisfy the requirement by the IRS. Yeah, Junior.
When you buy the property in the reverse, you guys are using your own funds?
Well, so that's a great question. So it's a non-recourse, single purpose, single entity LLC. Who's going to lend to that? Not a whole lot of people, right? But the IRS doesn't care where the money comes from. You can pull it out of you can be the bank yourself. You can go to the mob. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Hard money lender. A lot of people, what they'll do is cross collateralize. They'll take a home equity line on their existing property, or they'll cross collateralize other properties, or if they've got a good banking relationship, they'll sign a personal guarantee with their bank, and the bank will still collateralize that asset. So there's ways to get around that. And if you're looking at a property where you've got $500,000 in taxable liability, $7,000 fee for the exchange, and maybe a $10,000 loan origination fee for the loan to get the property purchased is a drop in the bucket to the $500,000 you would have paid.
But so I'm saying, if they don't have those resources, you guys can buy it on your own.
So no, so we're not buying the property. We're just the entity that's on title.
They still need to find their own.
Yeah, we're non-recourse entity, so we're not responsible for the loan.
So basically, the buyer or the 1031 person still has to find their funding.
Correct.
Somehow.
That is absolutely correct. And on Peak, I've worked for other exchange companies. It could take up to 6 weeks for them to get the LLC in place. I had an exchange last week. I got a phone call on Tuesday saying, hey, my client's relinquished property just fell out of escrow and we don't want to, we can't get an extension. We got to close on Friday. I had informational sheet filled out from the taxpayer on Tuesday. I had all of the exchange docs with the LLC creation in escrow by Thursday for a Friday closing. So we're so nimble because we're a small company, relatively small, like with regards to our employees. We don't have a lot of overhead, but we've got more money than Fidelity's exchange company does on deposit. And we're a juggernaut in the microclimate. In the 1031 exchange industry, there's a publication named us the best of the best in the state of California for 1031 exchange companies.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really solid group of guys. I'm honored and proud to be working with them. Yeah.
Very good.
Cool. Okay, hey, if you guys need me for anything, don't forget to scan the QR code, put me in your phone, and I'll be here for you.
Yay! Thanks, Jay. I told you it was super smart. Oh my goodness. Okay, and then, oh, I left it here. Okay, I'll put his contact. What do we just give them your cell phone number?
Yeah, it's on the-
Or you got a different one? I just wanna make sure it's the same that I have. Is it a different number than what I have?
No, I think it's the same one you have.
Okay.
And that's my name in Farsi on the board there. I'm a symbol now. I love that.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Jay.
All right, guys, have a great one.
All right, you too. Safe travels. Are you heading back up?
Maybe we'll see. I'm probably gonna work for a minute or two.
Okay. All right. Okay. Mr. JoJo, come on down.
Thanks. So like Jay was saying, our purpose is really is to help you find another transaction, add another transaction into your mix. That's an opportunity there. Today, I just have two messages. First is, we talked about this program last time in my office, but he didn't really go over the details, so let me just share this with you. You've got a client that cannot qualify because they don't have standard tax returns where they actually show income. But they have good credit and they have assets, money. So there is a program called stated income loan, or as commonly known as no ratio loan. No employment information needed, no income information needed, no income documentation needed. They could buy a primary residence, SUR, it should be SFR or PUD, but when it's a condo, instead of a 20% down requirement, it becomes 30. The key part here is they have to have at least 9 months in reserves left over after they close. It's all asset based. You can borrow up to $2 million. Asset, the money, the down payment only has to be seasoned for 30 days in the bank, not like the usual 60 days. And no debt to income ratio is calculated. It can also they can also get the asset for down payment as a gift, 100%. They just have to come up with their own closing cost. Minimum FICO is 720. You can actually go down to 680 with certain stipulation, but 720 is preferred. And you can get in with 20% down, and that's it. No verification of anything else.
What's the interest rate?
It's right now, it's about 9.5. And it goes up and down with the market also. In fact, about 6 months ago, it was a 10.5 or 11.
Yeah, it's higher because they don't want it.
Yeah, but the thing is, like I said, if really you cannot qualify and you need to buy that house, 20%, 720 FICO, you're in. And you 9 months left in reserves, you're in. Easy close, less than 30 days. Second thing I want to talk about today is where rates hovering between 6.8, 6.9. Where's it gonna go, Joe? Just gonna stay flat. The feds are now saying they probably won't even touch it till September if they do. There's a big fight going on with the president and Powell. But as far as Powell is concerned, he won't even revisit it till September. He thinks inflation is headed up again, so he doesn't want to lower the rate. So plan accordingly. Prepare for that adverse situation. And you want these guys to get another transaction. Thanks, Stephanie.
Awesome. Thanks, JoJo. All right, awesome. Okay, congratulations, Mr. Jeff Lando on 100% capping. Yeah. Yay. Thank you again to my amazing and our amazing ALC, Eileen, Monique, Alan, Lynette, Linda, Louisa, and Raja Horn. So I appreciate you all very much. Ashley went in, but thank you again for always wanting to recognize Debbie and Ashley, they're just doing an amazing job and really just really appreciate your support of them. So thank you all. Before we go on to, well, Dave, you had something you wanted to share. Come on, Dale. Dave with my NHD.
Business cards. If I don't have your business card, bring it up because I'm raffling off the pilot light. So come put your business cards in there. Dave with my NHD. The E&O insurance through this company is through Crest. We have an arrangement with Crest. I've talked about this in the past, whereby when you order a Crest report, it's the same as our report, same price, same information. At the close of escrow, the seller's going to receive an additional $25,000 E&O insurance. So in your contracts, put in Crest, NHD, it's all reported again. Seller will get that at the close of escrow. Another reason why I'm collecting cards is we have something coming out next month. It's You Should Know, and it'll come out every 3 weeks. It's important information regarding items in our report. We might be talking about AB 38, we might be talking about environmental reports, might be talking about liquefaction. So the cards I'm collecting will be put on a list. Hopefully you'll be getting that information. I've talked about this in the past. It's an app that we have. It's a free app, myhousecheck.com. Go to it, find out if the property's in a high fire, high flood zone. It's important if you're working with buyers, they don't want to be in any of those zones, you'll know ahead of time.
That's a great tool.
It really is. Also, we've got, some insurance brokers that we deal with. Sometimes buyers are having issues trying to find insurance. It's a big issue. These guys are brokers. They've got access to a lot of different insurance companies who got more of these flyers also. And then there's a saying, practice makes perfect. Well, it's a little incorrect. It's perfect practice. It makes perfect. So I appreciate all your support. Any more business cards? Everyone's in here? Well, Stephanie, you picked up a lucky winner.
Okay.
This fire blanket, it's a handy item to have if you have a fire in the kitchen or anywhere, you throw the blanket over the fire, puts it out right away. Go ahead, read it.
Oh, Alejandra. Alejandra, you won.
Oh, there's- Congratulations.
You're gonna be safe if something happens.
That's right. Fire blanket. I'll stay after the meeting if you have any listings. What's that? myhousecheck.com. House check. You put it on the phone, I'll give it to you. But if you have any listings, I'll order your reports for you on $74.95.
All right, thank you, Dave. So I just want to acknowledge everybody's birthdays. Oh wait, what's today? Today? Oh, the 10th. Claudia's birthday is on the 13th. So happy birthday, all the beautiful birthday babies. And happy anniversary to all these beautiful people. Woohoo!
Yes.
Yay! Okay,
Oh, yeah.
update with Louisa. Oh, hold on. Wait, just.
Exciting news. What?
Alright.
Oh,
There you go. Sorry.
cool. Okay, exciting news with PC. So currently, we have a new agent, Arash Tahiri, who's only been with us 2 weeks, and he is in escrow. He just opened escrow today, representing a buyer, and then he has 2 possible listings coming up. So he might be my fastest. But Arash Tahiri.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Good shit.
Okay.
So yeah, so you guys have heard Stephanie talk about tracking your numbers, right? So I wanted to give you guys, because you guys always hear me like, oh, PC open escrow, blah, 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 right? But so all in all, PC is actually doing great up to date right now. Our goal that we put last year, I was having a heart attack, is 18 deals from PC. As of today, we are currently closed so far. We closed 4 transaction, 1 listing, 3 buyers. We have 2 open escrows and then 1 listing active right now. And then we have 1 offer is out, waiting for an answer. And then we also have 1 listing appointment that hopefully gets signed by today. So that will make it so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We are so far, if everything goes well, 9 by June, and hopefully by December,
we have 9 more. So PC agents, do you hear me? We need to do 9 more by December of 2026. So
Good
get
job,
going.
Yay, Louisa.
Yay, PC. Thank God for like all the headaches and I'm strangle them. And then one thing too that I always talk about is about relationship and giving back to the community, right? So I am part of a Chamber of Commerce, which is Filipino American Chamber of Commerce, which is also part of United Chamber of Commerce, which is the whole chamber from the whole valley. So on the 12th, on the 26th, they're doing their annual mega mixer event where you guys can meet all of the Chamber of Commerce from here in Calabasas to all the way in Burbank. And you guys can get to meet with them. You guys can get to meet all the business owners of everywhere. So at least you guys can get, again, relationships within the community, whoever you guys want to speak with. And plus it's free food. Well, technically not because there's a fee, right? But there is food and beer, alcohol. It is at Anheuser-Busch and it's really fun, actually. It's really fun to connect with other people, to connect with, just non-real estate agents. So then you can, talk to a lawyer or, another businessman. There's gonna be people within the community in regards to roofers, in regards to contractors. So yeah, it's definitely an amazing event and it's only $50 if you guys do it now. But at the door, it's gonna be $60 if you guys are not a member of any Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so just so you guys know, once you guys are a member of any Chamber of Commerce, then you guys become a member of United Chamber of Commerce, which does a lot of good things within the community. And one of them, they actually do an LAPD breakfast day at, what's that restaurant in Millennials? The Brazilian? Fogo's. So they do that also every year, and we are, as long as you guys are part of a Chamber of Commerce, within the umbrella of UCC, you guys are invited to do that to go there as well. So any questions, let me know, but if not, hopefully I'll see you guys on the 26th. I'll be there.
Fabulous. Thank you. We're still working on the flyer and we'll set the dates, but just want to let you know, next month on July 9th, we are having a webinar, if you will. We are contracting with an insurance person that helps insure homeowners in high risk areas. Right, so super excited about that. I was communicating with our insurance peeps this morning, and so all 5 offices are going to be in the Zoom, but I want to make sure that you hear what they have to say and all the stuff out there, because as we know, dealing with homeowners insurance in a deal is a contingency for one and can be very difficult depending upon where it's located. So just wanted to let you know that that's out there. Okay, we are based